So Title 42, Jonathan, was supposed to be lifted today.
Yeah.
A federal judge in Louisiana put a stop to it. District Judge Robert Summerhays, a Trump appointee in Lafayette, Louisiana, he ruled that the Biden administration did not do what, Jonathan? Did not follow their own administrative law and rules when it announced in April that it planned to halt Title 42. It's the same argument every time. Summerhays said in his ruling that the Biden administration violated administrative procedure law and that lifting Title 42 would cause irreparable harm because the states would have to spend money on health care, law enforcement, education, and other service for immigrants. Now, Summerhays wrote that the CDC failed to comply with the rulemaking requirements of the APA. By the way, us immigration lawyers use the APA all the time. Every time USCIS makes a decision that is against an immigrant, we also use the same rules. The Administrative Procedures Act say immigration didn't even follow their own rules in denying this decision. Here it's being used against immigrants.
Yeah.
The Biden administration had to do what, Jonathan? We always talk about this all the time. They had to publish their rulemaking in the Federal Register. They said they did not. They did not publish notices of the proposed rule. They did not publish final rulemaking in the Federal Register, and they did not provide an opportunity for the public to comment on the change in the rules.
So, but why?
Because in order to do that, it would take 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months.
So what, they thought that they were going to just get...
They thought they would just fast track it. And maybe, by the way, Biden did it on purpose. Maybe he doesn't want to end. Okay, maybe
this is
I'm just playing.
Like, I tried.
I tried to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
But he knew that it would be blocked because they didn't follow their own rulemaking.
Yeah.
So he can soothe the left and say we tried, but at the same time,
that's what it's feeling like.
Keep the center in place, because you know what'll happen. Is this will all be Biden has so much going against him going into the midterm elections.
Yeah.
We have a problem with inflation. We have a problem. COVID is still not under control. We have an economy that's reeling. The stock market has tanked. People lost billions of dollars in Bitcoin. Tanked. We're having supply chain issues. People can't get baby formula.
Yeah, I just heard
we have
about
a war in Europe right now. I mean, there's a lot going on.
It's not his fault.
I mean, a lot of it's not his fault. I mean, I would even argue that the inflation's not his fault.
Right.
I mean, it's a leftover residual of all the money that was printed during COVID.
Exactly.
But it's on his watch.
It's on his watch, so
the last thing, if you're President Biden saying, politically, the last thing we need is another issue with everybody yelling, we open the borders. Although we're going to talk about that in a second. Title 42 is not necessarily opening the borders. It's actually the opposite. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, Title 42 is still in existence because of this decision by federal judge. It'll probably be months and months and months and months and months before it gets lifted. For those who don't remember, Title 42 is the rule that Donald Trump put into place to prevent people from crossing the border, applying for asylum, either at an airport or at the southern border, because he did not want, it was under the guise of don't allow people into the country because of COVID. Now, according to the New York Times, Stephen Miller, remember him, Lurch? Remember that guy, Lurch?
Yep.
Okay. He looked like Lurch from the Addams Family.
He did. Yep.
Right. This guy here. I don't know if we have a picture of Lurch, but I swear to God, this guy looks like Lurch. All right. He was the senior advisor to former President Donald Trump, and he had proposed the idea to invoke Title 42. He was the one who put it in Trump's ear at the U.S.-Mexico border as early as 2019, well before there was ever a coronavirus issue.
Yeah.
He told Trump to do this before there was coronavirus. And now, according to the Associated Press, when the pandemic hit, former Vice President Mike Pence ordered Robert Redfield, then the director of the Centers for Disease Control, to invoke Title 42 over the objections of CDC scientists who said there was no evidence that would slow the virus spread in the United States. In fact, Dr. Anthony Fauci the nation's top infectious disease expert, has said that immigrants are not driving up the number of COVID-19 cases at all. As the pandemic has dragged on, Title 42 has been discussed, obviously, less and less as a public health issue. It is now an immigration issue. Now, according to Sheriff David Hathaway of Santa Cruz, Arizona, he is a sheriff right there on the border between the United States and Mexico. He wrote a piece in the Arizona Central, which is a newspaper out in Arizona, on May 9th, and I thought it was interesting some of the points he laid out. And the piece was titled "Take It from a Border Sheriff." One of the things he says is that Title 42 has inflated statistics of what was taking place at the border as migrants face immediate deportation with no processing and no repercussions for repeat offenders. So it's the same people coming in, getting caught, being returned, getting caught again, being returned. So which is why now you see the numbers of deportations up. But if it was the number of actual individuals who got deported, maybe the numbers are not as high, but what you have one person maybe being deported 3, 4, 5, 6 times who keeps getting caught. Meanwhile, he also said, which I thought was interesting, because I didn't think of it this way until I read this article, so I wanted to point it out. He says Title 42 was being enforced. Guess who was traveling to Mexico? Millions of Americans.
True.
They didn't have any problem coming back. They didn't have any problem bringing coronavirus back. Of course, an American would never have coronavirus and bring it back to the United States. They were not subject to Title 42 at all. And he said that his colleagues at the border, instead of Title 42, what they need is bolstered procedures and an infrastructure to properly and humanely process all types of claims. What they really need is this. They need like thousands and thousands of immigration judges at the border. Thousands and thousands of immigration judges at the border who could hear somebody's asylum claim in some sort of immediate fashion. And those that have real claims are allowed in, and those who are not get deported home. That is a better use of money than everything that's going on at the border right now with detentions and everything else.
Yeah.
You know how much cheaper it would be?
I was about to say, it's probably cheaper too.
Yeah, but there's money in detaining people. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, there is money in detaining people. We say it all the time. You want to know why? Because all of these jails where immigrants are being detained are for-profit companies. Many of them are publicly traded companies. They need prisoners to make money.
Yep.
And by the way, I read another article. It was by an immigrant rights activist, Border Patrol accountability activist, and what is
Jen Budd.
Jen Budd, thank you very much. And she wrote that Title 42 has done nothing to actually stop migrants. And I thought this was pretty interesting too. Because she claims, it starts the article, she claims that Republicans and even Democrats are making Title 42 a big deal. That this is what's being used to stop migrants from crossing the border, having these asylum applicants come in, be allowed into the United States, be allowed to work and live here while their application is being processed. Now, according to her, people needing to claim asylum are required to submit themselves for inspection at CBP at various border entries. Under Title 42, the ports have been closed to this avenue. So you can't now go on anywhere on the southern border and apply for asylum. So now by definition, those asylum seekers who are in fear for their lives have nowhere to go apply for asylum. And by closing the ports and access to these CBP officers, Title 42 has forced thousands and thousands of people to try to run across the border without inspection. And now that is all left to Department of Homeland Security officials who are on the border trying to stop all of this. They've actually pushed all the work now to Border Patrol agents who are trying to stop migrants from entering the country without inspection, returning them back to their countries, only to have them come back weeks and weeks later. It's like a back and forth cat and mouse game. Meanwhile, we have lots and lots of officers at airports who have been left out of the equation. Can't process any asylum claims. So they put more pressure, has actually put more pressure on the border than less. It has actually had the reverse effect.
Yeah.
So now, although processing asylum seekers is part of their job, they used to share this task with CBP, and thanks to Title 42, she writes, half of our asylum processing system that screens every person requesting asylum is not being used. So now it's all Border Patrol who are trying to catch immigrants, not accepting their asylum claims, returning them, detaining them for profit, then returning them, only for them to return again. That's where the pressure comes from. Now, Bud writes, whatever your take is on the immigration asylum, what Title 42 has done is demonstrated that a closed border is dangerous to national security. Forcing people seeking asylum to cross in between the ports is not only dangerous for them, puts more money in the hands of smugglers. It ties up the Border Patrol with processing that should be done by CBP, and it further prevents those individuals from being inspected. So that's what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And there's a simple solution to all of this. Hire and train 3,000, 4,000 immigration judges. Hire and train 4,000 trial attorneys. Open up, turn those jails into courthouses.
If only.
Right, turn those jails into courthouses. And then somebody shows up for asylum, have their hearing within a day or two.
Where's the money at for them?
Right, have your hearing in a day or two. And it'll do two things. One, it will prevent people from thinking that if they apply for asylum, they can get a work permit and live here for years while their application is being processed. And two, it does a total adjudication within days.
Yeah.
So it's totally possible. But why would you want to get rid of those jails that make money on people?
That's what I'm saying. Where's the money in that? They're
I
not
said,
gonna do
why
that.
would you want to do that?
Yeah, they're not going to do that, which is so sad.
Yeah. Meanwhile, another sad situation on May 16th. This is a little trifling.
Yeah.
The U.S. Supreme Court ruled that federal courts cannot you cannot do an appeal based on a factual decision made by an immigration judge. So if an immigration judge makes a decision, you can only appeal if they applied the law wrong. But you cannot appeal that they got the facts wrong. Even in this particular case of a Georgia man by the name of Pankchu Marker Patel, and he lived in the United States for 30 years, and there was a blatant error by the immigration judge, where the immigration judge said that because he checked off a box that he was a U.S. citizen on a Georgia driver's license, that automatically prevented him from becoming a citizen and made him absolutely deportable. Except on Georgia driver's licenses, there's no requirement to be a U.S. citizen to get a driver's license. And he had a green card. So by him checking off the fact that he was a U.S. citizen, had no bearing on whether or not he would have gotten a driver's license.
Right.
He could have said he was from Mars, and he would have been able to get a driver's license. And he claims it was just an error because he didn't read it well, or was doing it fast, or whatever. Blatant error by the immigration judge.
Right.
But the immigration judge came down with the factual proposition that he made a false claim to U.S. citizenship on a driver's license application. And as a result of that, he got ordered deported after living in the United States for 30 years as a lawful
crazy.
permanent resident. So that case went all the way up to the Supreme Court. You know what the Supreme Court said? Even if the judge made an error, too bad. We cannot overrule factual errors. So it was a 5-4 vote. The majority interpreted the law at issue as limiting courts from considering relief and leaving it up to the discretion of immigration officials to apply in factual dispute cases as to whether someone is eligible for that discretionary relief and removal. One conservative judge by the name of Neil Gorish sided with the three liberals, and he said in his dissent that the decision will act as a shield to protect the government from the embarrassment of having to correct obvious errors.
Right.
And unfortunately, what that goes to show, if you ever thought you need an immigration lawyer at an interview,
Now
you really do, because the reality is this: you can't appeal anything anymore. You got to argue it out right there.
And a lot of people don't know certain things, you know.
Yeah.
Get you a lawyer, y'all.
Meanwhile, this was very trifling when we were on
Vacation.
The
I heard
gunman
it.
killed 10 people, wounded 3 others at the Tops Friendly Market, a predominantly black neighborhood in Buffalo. 11 of the people who were shot, 11 of the 13 people who were shot were black. The victims range in age from 20 years old to 86 years old. One of the victims was the mother of the former fire department chief of that area. The suspect was identified as Peyton Gendron, an 18-year-old from Conklin, New York, who allegedly wrote a white supremacist manifesto. He traveled about 200 miles to what he thought was the largest predominantly black neighborhood in upstate New York. Police Commissioner Joseph Gramaglia said the attack was a racist hate crime, obviously. He said it's going to be prosecuted as a racist hate crime. He says that the evidence we have uncovered so far makes no mistake that this is an absolute racist hate crime. It's going to be prosecuted as a hate crime, and that is someone who has hate in their heart, has hate in their soul, and has hate in their mind. Governor Hochul announced $2.8 million in federal and state funding for the victims and their families. It doesn't bring them back.
That's nothing.
It doesn't bring them back. And she said that this was targeted as the busiest place in that area at the busiest time, at the zip code with the largest predominantly black neighborhood in upstate New York. It is 78% black. That zip code 14208. Now, an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle was used, and in the manifesto, the person who wrote this, which presumably is this killer, wrote about the perceptions of the dwindling size of the white population and claims white people were being replaced by non-white people. And this, quote, replacement theory, which was a fringe idea for a while, is now gaining a foothold in many people's thoughts and is being repeated on Fox News.
Oh.
One of the three big news stations, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. On April 8th, nobody's friend here, Tucker Carlson.
Voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter.
So
I know that the left and all the little gatekeepers on Twitter become literally hysterical if you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world. But they become hysterical because that's what's happening, actually. Let's just say it, that's true. Every time they import a new voter, I become disenfranchised as a current voter.
Well, as more people vote, your vote becomes less.
Right.
But that has nothing to do with anything. I mean, you could have, who knows who's coming in here.
Exactly.
In any given time. Now, in an April 11th article, Charles Blow, he's a very well-known New York Times opinion columnist, he wrote that, Carlson caused an uproar on April 8th by promoting this racist, anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, the white replacement theory. And it stands, this theory is this, that the Jewish community is orchestrating the replacement of white Christians with people of color to disenfranchise white Christians. Now, white supremacists in this country have long worried about being replaced by people. It goes all the way back to 1890. 2 decades after the end of the Civil War, there was a very well-known judge by the name of, racist judge, by the way, by the name of Solomon Calhoun of Mississippi. And he wrote, even back in 1890, that he was worried that white voters will be replaced and outnumbered by black voters. So you know what that did? You know what they did as a result of that?
What?
Jim Crow.
There you go.
They started Jim Crow. That's where Jim Crow came out of white replacement theory.
Wow.
So for those who don't know, Jim Crow was a set of laws instituted in the South to disenfranchise black voters, to segregate black voters, to make black voters less able to be even educated for everything.
Yeah, because of the fear of black domination.
Yeah. So now it's Jim Crow again, but now not black American voters, foreigners.
Yes.
That's what it is. Erica Smith, she wrote on May 15th article in the LA Times that in many ways this conspiracy theory also has some roots in the 1990s when Republicans, desperate to hold on to power, were spreading fear and paranoia about millions of Mexican immigrants wanting resources and rights. And she wrote that the real origin, the Great Replacement theory, though, is much older and linked to anti-Semitism, in that white supremacists blame Jews for non-white immigration, hence the chance of Jews will not replace us in Charlottesville. And also, remember the racists were with the tiki torches in Charlottesville. And it's also been cited as a motive for numerous mass shootings. The one in Buffalo just now, the one at a Jewish synagogue in 2019.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
And also because of this Great
That was like in
Replacement
San
theory.
Diego or something, right?
Yeah. The version of theory making the rounds now says that America is becoming more diverse, which is absolutely true, but that some secret group of elite Democrats is conspiring to bring in immigrants to replace the white Christian people. And however, the truth is that many of the Latinos actually put Trump in power.
Right.
Okay? If you remember, the Latinos in Florida voted Trump.
Scaring them into it.
They voted Trump. All right, because they didn't want Trump scared many of the Latinos who came from communist, historically communist and socialist countries, that Biden was a socialist and a communist.
Right.
The last thing they want is to escape communism and socialism, get to America to have more communism and socialism. So Trump scared them into voting for them.
Took
So
the
you
bait.
can't even say that even immigrants are voting all Democrat.
Right.
Meanwhile, sadly, scarily, 3 out of 10 Americans right now think that additional immigration is going to cause native, presumably white Americans, to lose their economic and political power. 30% of the electorate. One reason is that irresponsible conservative pundits, like we just saw Tucker Carlson, keep repeating it to people. Even Texas Governor Greg Abbott of the said at the National Border Patrol Council, accused President Biden of turning a blind eye to parents across America who are facing a nationwide baby formula shortage. He wrote, while mothers and fathers stare at empty grocery store shelves in panic, the Biden administration is happy to provide baby formula to illegal immigrants coming across our southern border. Except he forgot to say that the U.S. government has an obligation to feed somebody who they're detaining. You can't have it both ways.
Right.
You can't say detain the person and starve them to death. You don't want to give them free baby formula? Don't detain them.
Right.
Don't have detention. Get rid of the for-profit jails. Let's have immigration judges. It's all full circle. They say we should detain everybody, but then when we detain them, you should starve them to death.
It's sick.
And coronavirus is not going away. This is all the problems that Biden has.
Right.
All right, think about it.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Okay. He's done a very good job, President Biden.
I think so.
I'll tell you where he did a good job. He has united the world against Russia. He has taken all of the democracies, Europe, Japan, South Korea, Australia, all of the major industrial democracies of the world, who, under Donald Trump, were at each other's throat. Okay? Putin didn't think that the democracies would come together. China was thrilled about Donald Trump. Russia was thrilled about Donald Trump. All the democracies fighting with each other, not agreeing to anything. He got the world to coalesce. Putin never thought this was going to happen.
Right.
And he did a great job doing it. And you want to know what also? He's in the process of saving Ukraine. He got the world united. And how many American soldiers have died so far?
Oh,
Zero.
Wow, that's true.
Okay. So from that
that's a good thing.
perspective, he's done a great job.
Yeah.
You know, he's not going to get credit for it because we have inflation,
Right.
baby formula problems. Okay. He's happy. Trust me, he's happy. I'm not happy. You're not happy.
No.
It's not good for America.
No.
He's happy politically that Title 42. He's
Yeah.
got to be happy.
Yeah.
All right, because he can't have any more problems.
Right.
And of course, coronavirus, it's spreading like wildfire again. Philadelphia school district is now mask mandating children in schools again.
I found out like so many people end up getting coronavirus, COVID-19. I mean, this past weekend, and I had no idea that it was like coming right back.
And by the way, now the federal government is offering a third round of free COVID tests. All you have to do is go to www.covid.gov/tests, get your free test. And some good news is that Pfizer and Moderna just came out and they have tested for over a year their vaccine on children ages 6 months to 5 years. And there is no difference in outcomes for children who take the vaccine between 6 months and 5 years in adults, meaning that they have similar immunities and similar negative effects.
Okay.
So no more, no worse than an adult.
That's good.
So that's good. So now, some parents were very nervous with.
I would have been scared too, for a
my child
Yeah.
can now feel comfortable between 6 months and 5 years
Nice.
of getting the COVID vaccine. Thanks for watching. For more Bradshaw Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.